We've seen how heat can often be produced as a waste energy, and heat's often lost in a process. So this video is going to be looking at more details about heat, because it's a really important type of energy. Thermal energy is the proper name for heat, but it just means exactly the same thing. Whenever you see thermal energy, just be thinking heat. And we've already learnt that heat is one of the types of energy. And as I mentioned, it's often produced as a waste during energy transformations. Produced as a waste energy. For example, when a car engine runs, it gets really hot and a lot of heat is produced, and that heat isn't helping to actually drive the car forward. So that's a waste energy. And the proper definition for heat is energy that's passed from hot objects to cold objects. From hot to cold objects. Or other materials. But how can we actually picture what heat is? And the best way to do that is to zoom down and think about the actual particles in a material. And we're going to do it here with some liquids in our beakers. So in the first beaker, we're going to have cold water, and in the second one, we'll have hot water. If we could zoom in far enough to see the water molecules in cold water, we'd see that they're moving around, as all particles do, quite slowly. They're bumping into each other and bumping into the glass, but they don't have a lot of energy. Whereas in hot water, those same water molecules have lots of energy. There's a lot of heat inside that water, and the particles are moving really fast, flying around and colliding with each other and the sides of the container. So when we have high heat energy, the particles move fast. And on the other hand, with the cold water, we'd say that there's low heat energy in that container, and the particles are moving slower. So that's how we can picture what heat does to materials. But most importantly, heat is about energy that's been passed or transferred. So we're going to look at the three main ways that heat can transfer from one material to another. Because heat can be transferred three different ways. Heat is transferred in three ways. The first way is called conduction. And this is when a hot object is in contact or touching a colder object. So here, if you put your hand on a hot deck, if it's the middle of summer and the deck is really hot out in the sun, if you put your hand there, then the particles that are moving really fast in the deck collide with your hand, and heat energy passes from the material to your hand. That's called conduction. So objects contact each other, and energy transfers by the particles bumping into each other and colliding. Think of it as lots of mini dodgem cars. The particles with high energy are moving really fast, and they're bumping into the other particles in your hand that are moving a bit slower, and then they speed up the slower particles. So in other words, the heat gets transferred. The next way that heat can be transferred is called radiation. And this is the same way that light gets transferred as well, because light is a type of radiation. So here, heat can be transferred by passing through the air. The heat passes through the air as radiation, or as a wave. Which is a type of light. We can see here from the hot sun, heat is moving from that sun through space and then through the air, and then we can feel that heat on our bodies if we're outside. And the same thing if you put your hands near an open fire or another hot object like a toaster, you can feel that heat coming off the fire, and that's radiation passing through the air and touching your hands. Lastly, we have convection. So with convection, you need to have some sort of fluid, which is air or liquid. So hot air or liquid. And if that air can circulate or move around the room, or move around an object, like a hot saucepan, then the heat from one area can flow into another location. So hot air or liquid flows to another location. This is why you want to keep the door closed in summer, so that hot wind doesn't blow inside and bring in extra heat through convection. And let's look at this example room here. If we have a heater on the wall in winter and it's making heat, then that air around the heater becomes warm, and because hot air rises, that air moves up to the top of the room and it pushes the cold air down, and then the rest of the hot air keeps moving around in a circle, pushing that cold air around back into the heater until eventually that heat has flowed all the way around the room. So that's how convection works.